Hey guys, Tarke here, and I just thought I'd give you my TLDR rundown thoughts on the developer manifesto. Obviously, there's a lot of info in here. So I'm waiting for patch notes. I've made a Google Doc with a list of all the notable things. I will obviously not talk about every single individual thing, just stuff that really stood out to me. And I will leave that linked down below so you can read that in your own time. One thing I did, which I thought would be kind of interesting, is I separated it into two lists. So I made a list of the things that stood out to me from my first reading. So I didn't let chat say things. It was literally, when I read the whole thing, this is the things which stuck out in my head. And I just thought it'd be interesting to see what stuck out to me compared to you guys. So, what was it for me? Adrenaline. So the Adrenaline Flask on mods used to be 30% movement speed, or up to. It's now up, I think it's 6 to 8% movement speed now. So they've done a lot to just hit mobility across the board. You could make the argument that movement speed is now much more valuable with how much harder it is to be fast. So it might still be worth going for, but I think with the change they've done to ailment immunity and curse and stuff, you're basically just not going to want to use this. You'd rather be better off either using unique flasks or just going for more ailment coverage. I also could see a setup where people maybe use multiple Quicksilvers. I spoke about this in another video. Depending on just how hard it is to maintain your Quicksilver, maybe you want to be running 2 Quicksilvers. But yeah, that was the big one which stood out to me. Basically, every single build has lost like 20% movement speed if you're still running this mod. And if you're not running this mod, you've lost 30% movement speed and your Quicksilver is up much less often. Diamond Flasks. Diamond Flasks no longer give your crits a lucky, they now give 100% crit chance. So if you're really desperate, you would run this, but most unique flasks will just be better in terms of damage. They've said they were going to rebalance unique flasks, so we'll have to see. But yeah, you're probably not going to be going for it. They did buff the crit gem, so crit strikes got buffed. You're probably going to be running crit strikes on most crit builds now, or investing a lot more into critical strike on the tree. Now, unpopular opinion, because I'm assuming a lot of people are going to hate this, I actually like this change. I used to purposely play a lot of non-crit builds because I always resented using a crit flask. I've always thought Diamond Flasks were kind of stupid. They're so binary with how powerful they are. Now, if you want to play a crit build, you've got to just invest harder into crit. And I think with how powerful crit scaling is, investing harder into crit isn't a bad thing. So yeah, I kind of like this change. It's going to be a massive hit to a lot of builds, and a lot of non-crit league starters will be much more attractive because of this change. Traps. Traps didn't really get touched. So basically their approach was Tarke likes traps. Tarke keeps begging us to rework traps. So instead of doing that, what if we just don't nerf traps, and then he'll stop complaining? So yeah, they basically haven't nerfed any of the trap support gems. They said nothing about mine, so hopefully that means the mine support gems got nerfed. So get screwed, mine players. Traps where it's at. Yeah, so that's cool. Most Ascendancies lost their ailment coverage. They didn't mention these, so I'm assuming these didn't. So Occultist, Saboteur, and Chieftain. Occultist has freeze removal. Saboteur has ignite and shock. And Chieftain, I believe Chieftain has ignite immune. So that makes those Ascendancies more powerful relatively. I think this is something they had to do. If they didn't nerf all of the Ascendancies which gave you complete ailment immunity, then with the changes they're doing to Flask, since they're trying to push this system, everyone would only play those Ascendancies. I'm not saying the ailment changes are good, but if they want to make people really care about ailments and make that a more active game, they had to seriously hit the Ascendancies which gave the coverage, because otherwise you'd just only ever play Elementalist, Inquisitor, Pathfinder, etc. Dot multi on weapons got buffed, so it went from a prefix to a suffix, which means you'll craft them slightly differently, but for the most part, this should just buff most builds. They'll lose support gem damage, but they'll be better there. They did hit dot multi on clusters, so this is kind of like to compensate, but if you're not using clusters, you're probably better. Dash, Flame Dash got nerfed. Smoke Mine got just... Smoke Mine got hit really, really hard. Yeah, so it now only gives 1 second of speed. It 20% up to 29% movement speed. It has a 5-second cooldown, and it gains no cooldown recovery as it levels. Smoke Mine got really hit. I guess just go over the dash stuff. Dash is now a 2.5 from a 2-second. base CD, and it only has 90% cooldown recovery from 57, which is huge. Flame Dash is now a 3.5 second cooldown from 3, and is 19% from 47, and the cast timer went up. So you're going to be wanting to basically just run Flame Dash, faster casting. They also hit Second Wind. Second Wind no longer gives cooldown recovery, now has a penalty to cooldown recovery. This change, I think, kills Dash. Basically, I think that if you want to be using movement skills, which aren't like attack speed, like Leap Slam, Shield Charge, stuff like that, you basically just run Flame Dash linked with like Arcane Surge, faster casting. I don't know if you even bother with Second Wind. It depends on your playstyle. Phase Run didn't get touched. Withering Step didn't get touched. I've always been a big fan of both Withering Step and Phase Run, and they became more awkward to use because you'd be just spamming Dash all the time. So I'm going to go back to using lots of Withering Step and lots of Phase Run. Also, Blink Arrow didn't get touched, so Blink Arrow is cool, but Blink Arrow did get hit by the Second Wind nerf. So yeah, the Second Wind nerf hurts a lot. This is going to be a very painful thing to feel. This makes running attack speed-based movement skills much more popular. I expect everyone's going to be running like Leap Slam, Shield Charge, stuff like that, and then next week they'll hit those. So yeah, attack builds are the way to go if you want to go fast now. I found this very funny. The Minion Damage Support Gem now nerfs Minion Life by 25%. I don't know why they did this. I understand they're trying to make it a choice and trying to make it interesting, but minion builds where your minions die feels terrible. So not only do you lose damage from all your gems being nerfed, and there's been all the minion nerfs recently, you now need to lose more damage to invest heavier into minion life, and a lot of people are already having to invest quite heavily into minion life. So yeah, I really dislike that change, but I found it funny. Archmage got dunked. They just hit Archmage in like every which way. So Archmage is now 60% instead of 108% damage. So that's the damage scaling. The base mana cost is now 5% from 6%. And they also hit how some Arcane Surge stuff works. So Archmage just kind of got hit a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, and something that someone said in chat, which is quite true and worth noting for minion players, is the thing which is particularly frustrating about the minion damage change is it makes the gulf between good and bad specters even bigger. So you're just going to stick to the most powerful specters. And the thing which is cool about the Spectre gem is being wacky, being creative, and this kind of kills that creativity. So I'm not a fan of that. And there's a bunch of poison stuff I'm not really sure about. We have to play with it. But basically, they've nerfed Assassin, they've nerfed Pathfinder. All poison does 50% less damage. And then they've changed Correlatos. And they're trying to make it so you could be like, I could be an occultist, or I could be this, or I could be that. It's hard to really like evaluate these changes at all because we don't have the patch notes. We don't know how much everything else is getting hit. Oh, it's poison does 50% more. Oh, that makes it a lot better than I... Oh, 50% more. Oh, that makes it much better. I thought this was less. See, the funny thing about that is I got sent this yesterday by Bex. I didn't get sent the whole thing. I got sent like 1 or 2 things. And I read it then as less. And I was like, lol. And she must have thought I was being like, lol, that's good. But I was like, lol, that's dead. And I was like, why would they do that? And she's like, I don't know. So we had this... We had an entire conversation of miscommunication. Huh. But yeah, so yeah, poison's maybe good now. I don't know. Probably. 50% damage is pretty good. That's quite funny. Bows got relatively buffed. So, like traps, they said they weren't going to hit the bow gems much at all. Stuff like GMP, chain, etc. Barrage got buffed. Lightning arrow they mentioned getting buffed. Spell arrow they mentioned getting buffed. And there's probably a couple more that they haven't mentioned. I'm hoping to experiment with Storm Rain as one of my possible starters. So I would like to do some bow starter action. I'm just a bit worried about doing LE bows as an SSF League start. But, yeah, could be interesting. Other stuff that is no source. This is the notable stuff which didn't immediately leap out to me upon first reading. There's a really dumb flamethrower trap change that I don't understand at all. So alongside not nerfing traps, they've significantly buffed Lightning Spur Trap and not Siphoning Trap, Seismic Trap. Both of those are now looking very strong. My arc trap build from last league, if you did that as a saboteur, you'd be in a really good spot. That's, I think, a very safe league start. But with Flamethrower Trap used to have a mechanic where it would rotate faster based on your cast speed. They've just removed that interaction completely, and they've put it in, this is the buff. Like, there's literally, this is a buff, and it's like, removed a mechanic. And they didn't give it anything. Buffs to underperforming skills. The rotation speed of Flamethrower Trap no longer scales to increase the cast speed. So I don't understand. Like, that's not a buff. Like, it's lost. The only way this can be considered a buff is if Flamethrower Trap used to rotate so quickly that your uptime went down. Which I don't think would happen. And theoretically, if an enemy was to stand perfectly still, because the flames move slower, the flame is on the enemy for longer. But, like, that isn't a buff. Like, you could make the argument, well, now you no longer need to invest into cast speed, but you did that with the Trapper Gloves for Trap Throw. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand that. So, yeah. Yeah. Consecrated Ground no longer affects crit. So, yeah, there's just been a lot of crit nerfs. Seismic Cry no longer affects exerted attacks. If it still gives the AoE, but don't get the damage. Elementalist Golem node got gutted. So you lost a bunch of damage. You lost the ailment immunity. It's still going to be strong if you want to do like an actual Golem build. But it's no longer going to be a situation of just like, oh, I want some generic damage. Play Elementalist Golems. Which I kind of like. I mean, I spoke about in my video of stuff that I would do. That I thought it was dumb that all of these people were playing Elementalist and all going for the same Golem items and were so just generically powerful. I don't know if this is how I would have done it, but, like, yeah, it's not as easy of just like I guess I just do that. You have to think about it a bit more. Awakened Gems got nerfed numerically, so they're still better than normal gems, but they're not as impactful now. Chain now gives chaining range as quality, which is actually really nice. Raider lost some stuff. It's basically a 80% movement speed loss, but it's still going to be relatively the fastest. Also, Raider was one of the Ascendancies which lost its ailment immunity, but it's now 50% chance to avoid ailments while phasing. So if you have the Crystal Skin Cluster, you're back to ailment immunity because you'll then have a 100% chance to avoid ailments. Raider is still going to be a very strong pick. They've nerfed the accessibility to Onslaught. Raider has Onslaught. It has easy access to ailment immunity, which looks to be very important. And with all the nerfs they're doing to accessibility of Onslaught, Quicksilvers, Adrenaline Flasks, it makes stuff like Deadeye slower because Deadeye's Tailwind scales the more movement speed you have. And you can get Tailwind on boots and stuff. So yeah, Raider's still going to be like the de facto, I want to run quick. So it's still going to be really good. Onslaught can no longer come from Bestials, so now you can only get Onslaught from Uniques. There's Onslaught nodes on the tree, which will probably be a pretty strong Anoint. And I mean, support gem. You could set up some ways to get it. So yeah, you're gonna have to think a bit more about getting Onslaught now. Unique Flasks have been rebalanced. I haven't listed all of them, so we don't know, but they've rebalanced them. Soul of Ralakesh and Yugal got buffed. So there's now Corrupting Blood stuff and Reduced Curse Effect stuff. There's new Flask nodes on the tree, which will probably be pretty strong with the reduced availability of Flasks. Ailments have been rebalanced as now a tooltip on enemies to see ailment stuff, which we can bring up. There we go. Yeah, you can see here there's this cute little number. So now when you have the boss, you can see how much you shocked it by, which is actually pretty neat because it'll give you an idea of, like, is this investment to shock effect worth, etc. Or, like, if you're using Lightning Arrow, which has got this cool new shock multiplier thing, how much of an impact is it really having? Fortify effect stacking got hit. I called this. I think everyone did. It's still going to be really strong. When you nerf all the defenses from Flask, it makes Fortify relatively stronger. Fortify will still be very good as a mechanic. Veiled crafting is more RNG now. And there's a list of skills at the bottom that got buffed. They're all pretty nice. Stormburst stood out to me. It got more base radius, which means it overlaps more. Stormburst was already a very good skill, so they've made a good skill even stronger. And if the game is generally slowing down, channeled skills are more attractive because the game is slower. So obviously there's more stuff in here that you can really tear into, but those are the standout things for me anyway. The stuff which is going to hurt me the most is going to really be this movement speed stuff. Everything else I was kind of expecting. I wasn't expecting this to be as rough as it was. I think this, in conjunction with the Quicksilver uptime and the Adrenaline nerfs, it's going to take some time to get used to. I'm definitely going to be trying to get the most out of my phase runs. I don't see a particularly healthy shift coming from this. I understand why they chose not to nerf attack speed-based movement options at the same time. But I've always been of the opinion that running is a better feeling in Path of Exile than spamming Leap Slam. I have purposely avoided like Leap Slam and Shield Charge builds for a very long time because I just prefer the feeling of just running around. And by nerfing the running around based movement options, like you just run and dash or run and flame dash, you're going to be pushing people towards the spam, which I'm not a fan of, but I expect that to be nerfed at a later date. I understand them not wanting to delete everything all at once. Yeah. Trap's definitely looking good. Would definitely recommend my Trapper stuff from last league. I will be making a bunch of, maybe this is how I play this build once we get the patch notes. Again, I'm looking at Storm Rain as one of my potential starters. Let me know what you think. Hope you're all doing well. Again, fellow shout outs to the UK boys who are melting. And also, finally, shout out to the people who get very confused by the way that hair works. So in recent videos, sometimes my hair is wet. Sometimes my hair is tied up. I have a lot of hair now. It's all still there, but the magical thing about hair is you can move it. So if you see that it's in a slightly different position in one video to another video, don't worry, you're not under attack. I haven't done anything to harm you because you people seem to get really personally affected by the state of my hair at the moment. It's fine, but yes, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.